I think she has taken something into her body, a negative spirit or whatsoever.
My name is Utt.
My name is Raihan.
My name is Wayne.
My name is Kyle.
And this is Tales from Incredible Tales, a show where we look back at the popular MediaCorp horror series.
The host of Incredible Tales across its 13 years, once again joining us here tonight.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
Hello to the audience and people who are watching us too.
Yeah, episode 16. Let's go.
Woohoo!
Woo.
So in every episode of Tales from Incredible Tales, we explore a different theme and how it ties back to the classic Incredible Tales episode.
Now, for this episode, we're looking at how much of the supernatural can now be seen through a more informed understanding of mental health. This episode's theme was inspired by Mind Games from season 6. A young woman named Sophie returns to Singapore to live with her Auntie June after 15 years. Auntie June, though, is not quite the person Sophie remembers. Sophie is told that Auntie June suffers from dementia, but Sophie starts to wonder if the friends Auntie June has over are part of her condition or something else entirely.
Let's take a look.
Please don't go away. Please don't go away, Robert. You're mad. You're absolutely mad. What are you doing? Where do you get that thing from? He's not coming back to me. He's not coming back to me.
Wow.
One of the things watching Incredible Tales and these reenactments is the fact that these actors are very good. I'm like amazed when I'm able to, revisit the stories and like, oh, the dedication.
Yeah,
just
yes.
the auntie right now. It felt so real.
Yeah, I think this is one of the episodes where I expected to be, the usual, scared. I think I ended this episode feeling incredibly sad. It's such a, it's not a wholly down ending, but it's such a sad story. And she really does that really well. Yeah.
It doesn't help that they actually shot on location in one of those older houses. So like in Singapore, there's quite a few of them, like heritage houses. So you can see like in that particular shot, right, it's an angular kind of wall.
Yeah.
So you can tell it's old. So it adds to the creepy, plus the long hallway. Where she ran back to her room, right? Then that adds to the creepy factor, but at the same time, it's sad lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the whole story is basically she lost her son at a very early age. And then she cannot get over with the grief.
Yeah.
That's why she's like being kind of haunted by her past, haunted by the spirit. And then this young girl is like seeing everything unfold. Yeah. So there's a saying in Mandarin, it's called 白头送黑头, which is like it's a straight taboo. So it's basically white head, send black head. Means to say that, that's the literal translation. But white head means like white hair. Someone who with white hair sending someone with black hair to the underworld. That's like a very sad, very tragic. Because no parent would want to bury their own child.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this episode, I think we can all feel that it's like it hits home a little bit too much, because we have all dealt with death in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it also opens up a little bit more of a perspective, because in this case, we're looking at a possibility of her really missing someone. Just not just a ghostly haunting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the bit in the episode where you find out that she's been keeping her son's gravestone. And at first you're like, oh God, gravestone, ghosts. But then towards the end you're like, your attitude towards that particular part of the episode just shifts halfway through when you realize what she's going through. Yeah.
So, just a question. If you guys ever encounter anything supernatural, do you try to reason it out as your mind is playing tricks on you, or you chalk it up to stress?
I think this is interesting because we had the doppelganger episode in which my thoughts were going towards more like a mental situation. But then watching this makes me think of that episode in terms of, how much of it is attributed to you thinking a person thinking it has to do with a mental situation rather than something else. So I think there's it's very gray. You know, it's very gray because now I look back at that episode. It's like, could it be me trying to find a reason, or could it be something more spiritual, or something that is what it is? And looking at this one, it's the same. It's basically the person, the person who's living with Auntie June, basically she's not sure whether this is a condition or this has something to do with something that has nothing to do with a condition, and it's more, might be sinister or energies or something.
Yeah, I think that gray area for me really, I think it's exemplified a lot of times because I've when you meet or when elderly folks who are on their deathbed. And it's happened more than once. I've heard several elderly folks who are on the deathbed say this. They'll see their late relatives, like a brother who passed on or their parents. They'll see them in the hospital, and that's just before they pass on. And it's for me, it's like, well, yeah, I guess it's because of their illness, they're seeing all these things, but also at the same time, like, A, we're in a hospital. Those places are creepy enough as it is, and B, it would make sense if they're coming to welcome their relative.
I find it there's a fine line of the mental illness. You can have PTSD, you can be short attention span, but that has nothing to do with being able to have a third eye. And I think sometimes it gets bundled together. It's because there's a mental condition, that's why making up things lah. But that's where the fine line is, because it could easily be seeing things, but having it not attribute to the mental condition.
But it's a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? Like, they say that if you connect to the spiritual world too often, it brings in the negative energy, whereas it affects your mental psyche, and then you compound that with even more hauntings. Then it gets worse. Then you start seeing things that are not there. So I think it really ties back to which state of mind you are at. The elderly, when they are almost passing on, right? Then they're in that state of mind whereby they either accept it or they don't. Right? But then they start seeing things. It could be their condition. It could also be the relatives waiting for them to come. But there's another theory that people say is that you're actually reliving your whole life as you are about to pass on. So you start seeing images that are around that you have lived through.
Oh, wow.
Which is quite interesting. So your mind is doing a massive playback of what you have done in preparation of passing on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for myself, if I hear anything knocking on my window, I'll probably think it's tree branch or whatsoever, even though I'm living on a high floor. But then when he repeats a couple of times, then I'll start to think, what exactly is that thing knocking on my window, etc. But brings me to a perspective that most of the time I'm 50-50. If anything doesn't sound right, then I'll start to think it could be spiritual. If it's possible for me to just put in, the Miss Dr. Mel Gill kind of hat, I'll put it as much as possible. But I've got to tap on what Carl mentioned about, if you take on energy, bad energy, negative energy, it could also affect your mental health. Because I know somebody who is still alive today, which I think she has taken something into her body. A negative spirit or whatsoever. I don't think she has it now, but somehow or other, because she went through the phase of having that bad energy, today she is living in a state where it's constantly negative. She blames people, she blames this, she blames that. As a Muslim, we do prayers, etc. Certain prayers can get her very uncomfortable. So it gets to the point where we were like, does she has it still in the body, or does she not has it? Or is it really a mental issue that she's facing, or is it something that's bothering her inside? So I know of a relative as well. This happened to someone very close to me, where we know that she has it. Suso. Have you heard of it? It's like you put in a needle into your body to make you look good, make you feel young, etc. But then when time comes, when you want to pass away, it's really hard because you got to get that out of the body. So she had a difficulty to pass away. While she was living, towards the end of her stages where she was about to be bedridden, she had a lot of very traumatic and sudden spur of emotion. So again, it could be that thing disturbing her internally, or it could be just her going through a mental state.
But then you have the layer of black magic with the needle. So there's a lot going on there.
Exactly.
Because like we've had this discussion before.
Yeah.
Anytime when you dabble into the realm of assisting in accelerating certain things, like looking younger or wanting love and thinking you can make a particular chant, potion, or ritual to get someone, all these things that are linked to black magic are going to affect you towards the end of your life.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of layers in there.
Right. So lovely.
For me, it's I'm kind of with Raihan on this one where it's 50-50, but my 50-50 is it depends on the situation. If it's something that's terrifying, like something knocking at my window, like mine, I try to take the reasonable approach to things and go, yeah, it's a very, very, very tall tree. It's scratching at my window. I notice that I tend to leaning towards the supernatural if it's something that's pleasant, if it's something that's, if it's tied to somebody who's close to me. Like when my uncle passed on, I think it was my cousin's wife, and I was very close to my uncle. My cousin's wife said that she saw him sitting in the living room during the wake, and he was just watching people pass by. And then I had like somebody else, I think it was my brother, who had a dream of my uncle, said that there was a party at his house, and again he was just standing there. He was watching all of us, and he had a smile on his face just to see everybody gathered in his house. So in instances like that, where I think if it touches on the supernatural, my logical mind kind of takes a backseat. And I go, yeah, that sounds like something he would do to come and visit us and, want to see us one last time. Yeah.
I think it depends on what is happening, right?
Yeah.
I think one, if it's like someone that you miss and care about dearly, you confirm will lean towards the supernatural.
Yeah,
You'll
right.
be like, because you want to believe that their spirit lives on, right? If it's something malicious, then first thing you will try to find is the scientific element.
Yes.
Like for example, this morning, the light on just now in the studio by itself, and then we were like trying to find reasons that no lah, it could be like the light on, like we switch on the light by accident, the app malfunction. We try to reassure ourselves, but it could be supernatural. And then the ghost is like, I'm just right here, I'm just trying to tell you that I exist, which I acknowledge you.
We do.
Yep. But so I think that it really depends on your perspective on how it affects you, right?
Yeah.
But my approach has always been to have a balance.
Yeah.
You cannot have one of each, like all the way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to all these ghost stories, I do evaluate who is telling the stories, who is the one also delivering it, how they deliver it, and whether they have gone through a certain past that can allow me to then decide he is mentally okay and not mentally okay.
So in my head, even if I wholeheartedly believe what you're telling me, like the story itself, I can still separate it as a story. So I think that allows me, so for me, it doesn't really matter like, a person's mental health condition or anything like that. If they tell me the story and I know that they're going through stuff as well, I can separate it slightly, so my logical brain can go, well, because of the condition, maybe they're just like seeing stuff or they're really stressed and this causes hallucinations. I don't know. But boy, that's a really good story.
I think there will be more evolution in terms of what you said. Like horror stories will become an expression. Like it's already happening. People are using it to express like, there's quite a few like art house horror where they're talking more about like mental health, like cultural issues. But I think at the end of the day, to me, horror is entertainment.
Yeah.
And it is closely tied to mental health in that sense whereby you watch horror to escape.
Yeah.
There's a difference between watching horror to escape versus living in actual horror situation. You see, back to the question of whether, like, if you ask me, would I believe this person if you tell me, hey, got haunting? I would say on face value, yes. Then I will tell them to get help, but not religious help, scientific help first. We're living in an age where you have 5G everything, right? So how about we just document it? It's very easy to catch weird things happening. Very easy. We got sensors, we got recognition software, we can recognize patterns very easily right now, right? So it's basically what the Warrens have been doing for years. They've been documenting it, submitting their research and their evidence to religious leaders. And then this is your case. You go and do, this is proof that this place is haunted. Go and solve it. So I think we can take that approach first. Then after that, then do the necessary things. Because at the end of the day, right, the mind is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
You can hallucinate. I remember one of our guests, Eugene Tay, he's a paranormal investigator. And then he has mentioned that they've done experiments, right? They're telling people that, okay, this place, right, is super haunted. You go and sit there for 5 minutes and then you let me know what you feel. Then the person will start feeling things. But turns out, right, actually research is done, that place is not haunted. He's just doing a test. So, yeah.
The mind is so powerful, and sometimes it really depends on who's bringing on a subject. It's like it's across the line, not only in terms of like horror related stories. It's like you can tell if you say you're like a museum expert, or like if you're an artist and like you've created art. This is my art, and it's like you put it in an empty room, and you do a display, and people might come in like. Right. But everything is very subjective nowadays, and who's presenting it and who's delivering it.
Okay, so this episode leaves it open enough for the viewer to decide if Auntie June has dementia or can speak with spirits. So what do you think is the truth?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. I think her mind is trying to cope with the loss. Still trying to cope with the loss. But at the same time, is to keep a tombstone, right, in your house is very bad. No matter how long the spirit has left, there is still some energy left. It's bad for you. Like in a certain religion, right, you don't you're not advised to keep urn at home. Certain religions, yes, it's bad luck. Certain religions you are encouraged to. So there's a two different school of thoughts. So for her religion, I presume it's like Taoist or Buddhism, right? She has actually broken the law, because you are not letting the deceased rest. So there could be a manifestation of that. But at the same time, she does have dementia. And I've also seen like people with dementia, they really are talking to air. And it can get quite creepy. Like for example, it's like Raihan, I tell you, why is there an American soldier walking behind you? Then you'll be like, what? And then if you're in a hospital, then it's like, oh, it makes sense because this used to go through World War II or something. Then your mind starts like patching in. So it could be the same way for them. Because of the loss, then the mind is trying to coax itself into thinking that your son is still there. Therefore, there's no need to grieve.
Agree.
I feel like when you're dealing with dementia, I'm not an expert, but a lot of things that are coming out into the forefront is from your subconscious. So like what Kyle was saying is like, let's say if she sees a soldier, it can be so many different things. It could be literally seeing a spirit that exists there, or it could be something from her past that's lingering in the forefront of her mind. So that's the sensitivities when we're discussing whether is it dementia or is it really what she's seeing. We don't know. We're not in her head. And hosting Incredible Tales and these reenactments, a lot of times we need to deliver them in such a way for the audience to go back and kind of just linger for themselves, whether it's one way or another. So like my my stand on it is still the same as when I was hosting it. It's like it can be either or.
Yeah.
And we really don't know Auntie June, like, what's going on in there. So it can either be.
I have, relatives who are elderly who, because I have another relative who's going through, I think, is a mental issue where she speaks to herself or she starts screaming by herself. And then the older relative immediately thinks she's possessed and immediately brings her to see an ustaz.
Yeah.
So trying to solve it, by drinking holy water, etc.
Yeah.
And then it's not solved.
Yeah.
Right? And then she keeps blaming, and she thinks it's a stronger demon being is in control. And so she looks for another ustaz, and it keeps going and going and going. But then the issue is not solved. So I come in a perspective saying that maybe she needs mental help. But to them, it's a taboo to talk about mental health at that point of time. Even till today, to them, it's like, mental health? No way. So they keep thinking that anything that happens is due to spirituality. While on the other hand, I believe that if only they could go both ways, like seek mental help and also seek a help from an ustaz, maybe that's way better for this individual.
Well, the problem in Asia is like there's a huge stigma with mental health.
Yes.
So there's not a full understanding of mental health. We're just like a different culture, and that's like a problem across the line.
Yeah.
Because like in my culture, basically, anything that gears towards being mental health, it means like you're just crazy. There's a word, just like ba. And the thing is, mental health is not ba, is not crazy, but it's because it's been embedded that way. So it's like you're either normal or you're crazy.
Yeah.
So like that negative connotation actually affects, because people who might be going through a mental issue or like have a family member or friends, they're like, oh no, there's that stigma. But there's no stigma if you go to the spiritual side of it.
Yes, that's right. And I think it still applies now, especially in the rural areas of Southeast Asia.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you go to Indonesia, I believe even in rural Thailand, people still believe that spirituality help is still ahead of mental health.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can see that in movies, etc. Yeah. So this question is for everyone. Which creature or spirit do you think has gone through the most trauma?
The first one that came to my mind wasn't even like a mythological creature or spirit. It was Shutter. And I know it's a ghost, but the ghost from Shutter.
The ghost from Shutter.
Yeah. It always seems to be rooted in trauma.
Yeah, you're right. Almost every spirit goes through trauma is because, for example, if we summon a spirit, there must be something that is going through with us that wants us to summon the spirit. So when we are summoning the spirit somewhat or rather is a reflection of us in the darker way.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And in the darker energy. And then hence the spirit also resembles our dark, deep desires, and hence they also will do the dark deep desires to the person that they want to do it to. So it's like a cycle. So hence the trauma kind of like reflects us. And I believe also those people who come back as spirits with vengeful spirit, as a vengeful spirit is somebody who has unresolved issues. So that's trauma too.
I think the spirits and energies that are still lingering in a way that connects to the physical world or realm are all spirits that haven't resolved. Because if there's the resolve, then they wouldn't be lingering around.
Yeah.
And I think the extremities of it, it's different. You have like the light side of it, and then even like the light gumans. I feel like they're unborn fetuses, so it's like basically. It's unresolved. They were supposed to be born, but they weren't. So I feel that's my take on it.
Okay, like as with any episode, I want to give like a twist. For me, that has the most trauma is actually the Orang Minyak, because I know that on the flip side, it actually assaults its victims, right?
Yes.
But I'm more akin to believe that entity was actually a racist creation by our colonial masters. You know what's an Orang Minyak,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to ask. Can you elaborate on this particular energy?
So Orang Minyak is this entity that basically like, correct me if I'm wrong, like basically someone who does black magic and then covers himself in like black oil.
Yeah.
Then of course he has spiritual powers. And then goes around villages basically sexually assaulting women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But it's a entity.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Orang Minyak correct my language if it's wrong. Orang Minyak directly translates to oily man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back in the day when they colonized us, which I think that, probably there is no such entity. They created this to create resentment between their colonies.
Yeah.
So I would say on that flip side, then this is the victim.
Wow.
Because
Damn good answer.
can you imagine, right? For example, like villagers that just happen to be darker in skin colors and getting caught. I'm sure there would have been cases that getting caught and then they would be killed by villagers, their own villagers, based on that rumor. And then countless of people would have died that way. And then I guess essentially creating an actual orang minyak. So it's like an endless loop.
Wow.
Damn, that's a good answer. That is such a good answer.
Right.
Oh man, that has to be for this season one of the best answers I've heard.
Thank you. On the incredible skill, how much?
11. Out of 10.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What about yourself, Wayne?
My go-to answer is always Kat P, but I think for me it's a tie between her and when you brought up the Kumans, I think Toyols also kind of fit into that category where it feels all the more sympathetic for me because not only was your life cut short, but then now you're being used for something that it goes against that innocence. You're asked to steal, you're asked to sabotage, you're asked to cause trouble. So it's twisting what they were. It's not just that your life was cut short, it's twisting it. It's a darker image of what they were supposed to be. All right, we're almost done with what has been a pretty serious episode, but still a very interesting one. Let's end it off. Kyle, do you have a morbid fact of the day to share?
Yes, of course. So writing for Psychology Today back in 2013, right? This person, Dr. Deborah Sherman Coughlin, said that belief in the supernatural can have a positive psychological effect by aiding the grieving process, providing the life coping mechanisms and simply giving hope where there was none.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Yeah.
Not only aiding in the grieving process, but aiding in bringing people together. I mean, we've had this discussion before, how I had a random fan who DM'd me about watching Incredible Tales and how it's had a profound effect with her working in senior citizens community centers because they all would come together and share stories, stories, ghost stories, urban tales, urban legends. So along with grieving, it also creates community where people are just sharing. It's like sharing food.
Yeah.
And it's like, it brings people closer together. And she's like, it just makes, she said, the sessions become very lively and very, very fun. And everyone's like, they bond and they have shared common stories and they have different stories that they bring to the group. So
That's the whole beauty about telling ghost stories, right? You just bring people together.
This is, for example, in Auntie June's case, all she needs to believe is that the son has already passed on and he would be at a better position, peaceful position, if she lets him go, right? So I think that also helps her to understand that his spirit needs to be at peace if she is at peace, and hence that helps her in the grieving process.
Yeah.
I mean, if she doesn't believe that there's such a thing as his spirit cross over and then etc., it might make things more difficult for her to accept the situation.
Don't you think that the grieving process is a damn long process? Because in Asia, we actually, visit the graves of the dead every year, right? Their death anniversary, a lot more. Like we have festivals dedicated to the dead, Hungry Ghost Month, like etc. Ubon for the Japanese. So actually, it's an extremely long process if you think about it. And I have seen with my own eyes, my grandmother lost her eldest daughter when she was in her 30s. Then it's very unfortunate but even to when the later years, when she's visiting her grave, she still cries.
Yeah.
I think it's a grieving process, no? People may think that, it's stupid. You bring the flower, you go and put in the grave, you bring the food, all this, and then probably wild dogs will eat it or the cleaners will clear it. But it is a process.
It is a process,
Yeah, I was smiling and laughing because it not at the situation, but at my own personal situation with my mom. It's like I've always felt like she pays too, like with tradition and culture and everything, she pays too much attention to the dead rather than the living, because it's like there's continuous funerals that we have to attend, or we don't have to attend, but I mean, and then there's the whole rituals when someone passes away, the 100th day. Not only do we pay attention to my grandma's birthday, but like on the day she died, and this was just recent, like last week. My mom had us all go to the temple, and then I need to have conversations with her to tell her, like, well, we're living right now, so we should maybe focus more time with the living. But I think it's been embedded. It's like it's crossed the line. It's across the line with like the older generations. That's how they've been embedded. And in how they see things, how they believe in things and everything.
I guess because we are also cultured to only miss the living once they are dead.
Yeah, which is, to me, doesn't make sense.
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah. To me, it's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what you said.
I love grandma. I miss her. She already said in my dreams, later bitches, I'm off. So
again, probably the best goodbye you could have ever asked for. But it goes
I can't have that conversation with my mom because she'll be really upset if I say that.
But it's like what you were saying, like it's that balance, like not just mental health, but like, yes, revere those who have passed, remember them, but also don't forget those who are here. But I definitely agree with Kyle as well, that it's however you choose to approach the grieving process, I almost feel like it's a lifelong process when you're grieving these people. Maybe not grieving per se, but missing and mourning these people. It's a lifelong thing.
Remembering.
Yes, remembering. Them. Yeah.
So thank you once again, Utt, for joining us. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to Tales from Incredible Tales. New episodes go up weekly on MeWatch, MeListen, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
My name is Utt.
My name is Wayne.
My name is Kyle.
And my name is Raihan. And we will see you next time.